Welcome to installing NexentaStor 4.0. Over the next few minutes, we're going to walk you through an entire installation of the NexentaStor software-defined storage solution. With that, we're going to look at the initial installation, configuring time settings, selecting your disks, the base install, getting your license, and even the appliance wizards. Starting off, we're going to go on to the initial installation. Now you simply walk through this process, whether it's on a virtual machine or physical, booting directly off of the ISO or the CD. It'll look at the initial installer, you wait a few seconds for it to kick through the process, and then you're going to start seeing things like the end user license agreement. Of course, with every EULA, you're going to want to make sure you read the entire thing. So we're scrolling through it here so you can see it. There's a few spots here to notice. We're going to speed things up just a little bit for you to make sure that you don't have to watch every little piece of the video. Once we get to the end of the EULA, we're going to be able to go ahead and accept all the criteria there's there for a standard software license agreement. Now we're going to go ahead and set some time settings. That's the next step when you go to install the NexentaStor solution. First off, you're going to want to set what your location is. So your region, your country, these are all pretty standard settings, down to the time zone. Once you have that, we'll be able to set traditional time zone settings. Now we need to know exactly what disk we're doing the install on. Now we're going to have a few different options when we're doing this. You're going to want to look at the available disks, and from that, now you're going to be able to choose whether you want one disk or multiple disks. Choose the ones you want to be your system disks. If you're going to have hot spares in the system, you'll select those here as well. You can look at a mirror if you want. We are going to go ahead and destroy everything on those disks. Now that we've formatted the disks, we're going to go ahead and do the base appliance installation. This is one of those steps where I was telling you where we're going to speed it up a little bit. Otherwise, you just have to watch this blue bar. On a virtual machine or installing on SSD, this might be a little bit faster if you've got slower disk you're putting it onto or a slightly slower head node. It might not be as fast. While you're waiting for this, you should get a piece of paper because the next step is going to be your product registration. And there's going to be a code you're going to want to write down. Now that that's completed, we're going to go right into that product registration. You're going to go ahead and do a reboot of the system. It's going to ask you to accept the EULA. You're going to see it one more time. You go ahead and accept it, and it's going to go through and show you a screen that has a license key and a product ID, a registration key. Go to Nexenta.com to the product registration. Simply go Products, NexentaStor, and you'll see a link on the right-hand side. You fill out the form and you'll get an email that looks like this. Make sure when you're entering those keys in, you don't mix up things like 1s and L's and 0s and 1s, or else your key won't work. Go ahead and type the key into the system. Once that's done, we're going to go ahead and set up some of the networking for the initial management. You can either do it via DHCP or you can do static. In this case, I'm getting a DHCP address, so I don't need to reconfigure it. I can also then choose where I want to have secure or not for HTTP for the web access. That's where you're going to go for the next step. That 8457 port is very important to remember, but you're going to see right there what the IP address is and the port so you know where to go next. That next step is the appliance setup wizard. This is part of the first of two wizards that you're going to walk through when you're doing an NexentaStor installation. The first step is some basic information. Host name, NTP server, domain name, things you'd expect. Now you're going to want both your root and your admin password. These are things that you're going to want to make sure you remember, and it's a common one if you have multiple people that are using it so that you can manage your system in the future. Next, you can set up things like SMTP settings so that you can get alerts, and then you verify things and go ahead and say save. Now that we've saved that, we're through the first wizard. Now we go right into the next one. We're going to see that some of the disks are set already. We're going to be able to look at whether we want to do any sort of other settings for shares or whether you need different disks to do things. You have to get through these steps before you go set everything else up. You could set up your disk right now if you want to do volumes or you want to do shares. You can do the first set during these wizards. In this case, we're going to save that for those future videos I talked about. Once you've walked through all these wizards, you're all set. NexentaStor is now installed. Now you can enjoy software-defined storage for your enterprise.